So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great privilege to open this panel discussion on green transition as a business case in Ukraine. I'm very happy that you have decided on the second day of this great event to join this, but I'm even more happy to have my great panel and great panelists which will be debating today on this very specific topic. The choreography for the meeting will be with the following. First of all, I will invite the representative of Ukraine, Deputy Minister Oleksiy Sobolev, to make a presentation of the draft National Energy and Climate Plan, which has been prepared by the Ukraine government with the within the cooperative process with the international community. Then I will invite my esteemed panelists to make a statement, and then we will have a more moderated discussion, and at the end I will open the floor for questions and for comments from your side. So Oleksiy, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, it would be good to have more time for Q&A, so I'll try to be brief. So almost exactly a year ago in London, we had a first meeting of high-level advisory group launching the process of developing National Energy and Climate Plan. Right now, National Energy and Climate Plan is at the final stages of approval within Ukrainian government, and we also last week received the comments from Energy Secretariat to the draft of the plan. So we're incorporating those comments into the plan and gonna approve it within the next week or two. So we can already talk about like almost final document. So usually we have some slides there. Yeah, that's great. So usually these plans are being prepared in EU countries for like year and a half, 2 years. Ours took slightly less than a year, and during wartime, I think that's an achievement. The other part is that it is very public consultation that we had. So more than 1,500 participants participated in those consultations, provided different comments. We had consultations with EU neighboring countries, with Poland and Moldova. The draft NECP was presented several times to EU counterparts, including Energy Community Secretariat. So this is not just the government's position in the plan, it is the public's position on the plan, I think. It was also very important for us to have it that way, to have a unified position of all our stakeholders and partners. Then for the first time we collected all targets that national and energy climate commitments in our document, and from now on we plan to keep it that way. So these policies should be synchronized and aligned with European Green Deal policy and its targets. And despite the war and the damages that Russia causes to energy infrastructure as well, Ukraine is committed to move towards green recovery and decarbonization. And I think we can use this opportunity for energy recovery right now, but like in a smart way to fasten, expedite this green transition. And Ukraine will follow energy efficiency first principle, and energy security will be integral part of our energy and climate policies. So what we know from the plan and from the modeling, in order to achieve these objectives that Ukraine has already subscribed to in different climate commitments, we would need a lot of investment. So to develop our renewable energy, invest in new energy infrastructure, we will need more than 20 billion euros for the next till 2030. Decarbonization of the transport sector would also require another 20 billion euros. And implementation of policies from NECP in all sectors will require significant costs, and definitely they can't be mobilized internally. We need and expect that pledges coming from our international partners, and I think some of the agreements that were signed during this conference are exactly the example of such pledges and how this can move forward. From our side, we already take to another commitment for the next year. So first, from the transparent process of development of NECP, we have this great tool of a high-level advisory group that actually helped to make this document and coordinate across multiple countries, across the whole globe, I would say. So would like to keep the high-level advisory group as a group that helps to implement the strategy that was developed, and we also provide oversight of a green transition office that we have under the Ministry of Economy, helping to coordinate these policies inside the country. And the second part is that we will be embarking on a kind of roadshow for investments to discuss how this plan could be fulfilled and which of the programs necessary to execute it within the next 10 years should be developed within the next several years, how we align the current priorities, right, of the both energy sector and like transport sector with the plan and develop it in tandem. So that's our general idea, and thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy, for your presentation and for giving us the glimpses of that what we can expect from the National Energy Climate Plan by Ukraine once it will be adopted soon. As this program is following the approach and the governance established by the EU, I wanted you, Mehmet, first to invite you to take your time for opening statement.
Thank you very much, Artur, dear panelists as well and participants, and thank you very much for the presentation from Ukraine Vice Minister, because it's not only tough to come up with a national energy and climate plan, I would say in normal time, but in wartime is really remarkable and outstanding that you came up or are in the final phases of coming up with this national energy and climate plan. And also I would very much welcome that you had a broader stakeholder consultation. This is part of a plan with all types of society groups and with the neighboring countries, as you mentioned, Moldova and Poland. So I think this is really for us important for medium to longer term planning and, as you said, attract investments. I mean, we need more predictability. We discussed a lot in other panels, emergency needs. Obviously, this is a key urgent priority as we discussed, but we also need to discuss green recovery. National energy and climate plans gives exactly that. It gives a predictability for investments, both public investment, but also private investments. We have a lot of private sector representatives here. So in that sense, very much welcome what Ukraine did, and we are looking at the very, very final version. From the EU side, as it was mentioned, this is the same process in a way. All our 27 EU member states have already done draft plans, and they are now in the final stages of coming up with their final plans by end of June, which we are then assessing both on energy efficiency, how far they are, on renewables, on market integration, research and innovation, security of supply, competitiveness, all these key factors we are looking at, and obviously we want to look also how they can jointly come to the 2030 EU targets of, for example, 42.5 renewables. And if there's a gap, we will come up with some specific recommendation. But coming back to what you just said, the recommendations, and thank you, Artur, also for the Secretariat. We had a cooperative approach on what could be recommendations for Ukraine. I think we can look at, in particular, 4 points. One is obviously the replacement of destroyed electricity generation capacity. We heard that we need to rebuild, repair, and have new generation capacity, and renewables is one of the key aspects here. We have to look at the role of national gas in the future energy system as we move forwards with energy efficiency and renewables. A third point, which is really crucial, is with residential buildings and high energy efficiency. I mean, energy efficiency should normally come first. And energy efficiency in buildings is absolutely key for a green recovery, because we should avoid losing energy in the buildings. I know it's challenging, obviously, but it's something I think which is part of that national energy and climate plan. And the last, fourth point which we are looking at is at energy intensive industries. There's a lot of energy intensive industries also in Ukraine, so we have to help and support them in the decarbonization of that. Ukraine has done a lot in the market reforms. I've been co-chairing a high-level working group on market reforms on electricity. We still need to do a lot on market coupling with the neighboring countries in that region. So we are looking with the energy community how that can be done. So that is really the big market EU with the contracting parties of the energy community, where Ukraine is a big part. Technical and complex issues of the electricity market, coupling and integration are lying ahead, but this is also a top priority to make it happen. And my last word is on the gas markets, where here also we still need some of the reforms, and that's why this high-level working group will concentrate on the future gas market reforms, that they are also well integrated with the EU markets and the contracting partners. All that is a necessary step, and that's why I said for the national energy and climate plans, the governance and the implementation, we will be part of that high-level advisory group to make it happen. We have 6 years. It's ambitious. We need to look flexibly with the current war situation, but it gives us really the predictability, as I said, for the much needed investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mechtil. Now I wanted to invite you, Jeffrey, to the podium to give your initial statement to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Artur. And let me say, what I really want to do is save time to hear from my friend Alexei, Minister Sobolev, and Olena, because what really matters here, I think, is the voices of the Ukrainians. I will say I come away from 2 very intensive days of discussions around energy in Ukraine, deeply reassured by the determination of Ukraine to prevail in the energy war that Putin has unleashed, but most importantly, as the minister laid out, to build a future energy system that is cleaner, greener, aligned with Ukraine's membership in the European Union, and inherently more resilient in the face of this hostility that Putin has unleashed, which is not going to stop. From that perspective, I also want to underline the message that President Biden made so clear with President Zelensky in Normandy last week, which is our determination to give Ukraine the tools that it needs to prevail in this energy war, working closely with Artur, partners in the European Union, Minister Ghani, our allies in the UK, and others. And then the last point I would make in this regard is I think we need to change the paradigm in terms of how we think about Ukraine's energy future. There is too much discussion about Ukraine as an aid recipient and as a charity case. We need to think of Ukraine as a business opportunity. And Mechthild and I and all of my colleagues in the Commission, we've spent a lot of time over the past 2 years talking about the importance of Europe's pivot away from Russian energy supplies. Europe is never going back to view Russia as a reliable supplier, which means that Europe is going to have to find new energy sources looking to the future. Ukraine is a natural green energy power bank for the European Union in terms of its wind and solar resources, its potential in biomass, its very large and well-established nuclear fleet, and its capacity to scale that nuclear capacity very quickly looking into the future. And then also a very interesting scenario on something that, for instance, the governments of the UK and the US have worked intensively on, which is the future hydrogen economy. And there are a lot of places I go in the world where my job is to lower expectations on the hydrogen economy, because this is going to be a long and difficult road. But Ukraine is not one of them because of the capacities that Ukraine already has in place, and then crucially something that the US and the European Commission have been intensively engaged on how we diversify our supply chains to reduce the dependence on China as an unreliable supplier, leveraging the industrial capacity that Ukraine enjoys in cities like Dnipro and Kharkiv. That should be a natural part of a de-risked clean energy supply chain. So thank you for having us together. And again, Minister Elena, just know that we are betting on your success, and we are absolutely committed to seeing Vladimir Putin's defeat.
Thank you very much. A very important message. Thanks, Nusrat. We started working on the NECP a year ago in London, so please.
We did, and I'll give a quick update on that, but I just want to reiterate what Jeffrey just mentioned. It's absolutely clear that Putin is targeting the energy sector to degrade the Ukrainian economy, but also to drive down morale. But let's just reflect on pre-conflict. Ukraine was the 7th biggest generator of energy in Europe. I think that is correct, and had 55 gigawatts of energy. At the moment, I think it resides around 3.6%. So we're dealing with a country that already had pretty fantastic capacity, and now it's remarkable, considering the pressure it's under to try and defend itself from Putin, that it's thinking about its long-term green energy, renewable industries. It's remarkable that they're here and that we are doing that, and we obviously want to be a really close partner in them achieving their goals going forward. We know so much work was set in motion at the last URC. We know that there are concerns around the energy sector to deal with the immediate needs of Ukraine. We have the winter coming round, no doubt, very much sooner than we all hope. And obviously, as the country industrializes to produce its own defense weapons, regardless of other industry sectors popping up, there'll be a much greater need for energy in the short term. And obviously, you've got a long and very serious objective in decarbonizing your energy sector as well. We are keen to be playing a fantastic role in that. But before I talk about what we're doing together, I think we have to just take a moment and reflect how open the Ukrainian ministers and government has been on having public-private partnerships, the fact that they are prepared to work with the private sector to reach its objectives, a conversation that we started last year in London. And we're really pleased that we've got UK energy companies involved, including companies here at this event. I've been to see Stuart at Baker Hughes, I've seen Neil at Pacific Green, we have Deloitte here, Arup and Gleeds here. So a huge amount of expertise, ready, willing and able to ensure that Ukraine can meet its commitment. There was obviously a fantastic update on the programme of work, but I do have some fresh news, which is that we are delighted that the UK is working with the Ukrainians to support the Green Transition Office, which will be at the heart of the Ministry of Economy and tasked with developing a state policy to attracting the finance necessary to implement this. And it's great to see the UK's Climate Change Committee advising on the early stages. All of us in the UK are committed to making the office a success, and of course we want Ukraine to benefit from a wider experience and solidarity of countries from South Africa to Canada as well. And that's why the UK has introduced Ukraine into the International Climate Council network. And I know that it was inspiring for potential new partners to hear from the head of the new office just last month. So we've already gone from a programme of work to a policy and now an office that's ready to making sure that policy can be implemented as well. And it shows once again how stronger we are together, and there's no reason why we will not see this through. There's no deviation. This is the plan in place, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that the plan is delivered, and we're happy to provide as much leadership as we can. I think we've made it clear when it comes to defence, when it comes to humanitarian, when it comes to social, but also when it comes to energy, that we will work as closely as is needed by the Ukrainians to ensure that they are able to offer a new perspective on providing energy, and no doubt becoming the 7th, 6th, 5th in the future biggest provider of energy across Europe as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Nusrat. Now I would like to turn to Alfonso, representing IFC, the organization which has been and I hope will stay with us when it comes to the implementation of the NECP.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and a big pleasure to be here with this great panel. with these authorities and people that has been really behind all these amazing changes that the Ukrainians are doing. I really have to congratulate the Ukrainian government because the level and of ambition and the amount of reforms that they have already taken and the openness to do more reforms in the coming months is really remarkable, and I haven't seen many countries in the world with the attitude and the ambition that this government has. So big congratulations for that. I wanted to start by saying that actually I was very honored in COP28 when I on behalf of IFC, I participated in the Clean Energy Partnership to support Ukraine, sustainable reconstruction and recovery. It was actually a great conversation where we started really thinking on how we could help to bring the private sector, or at least bring the private sector dimension into the new National Energy and Climate Plan that I think is coming super nicely and great, in a great shape. The Energy Strategy 2050 was also a very good, as the Deputy Minister has mentioned, it was a very good setup, a very good framework to really think on how we could work on from different dimensions on doing that. What we did in IFC to inform or to help informing this analysis was to do an in-depth analysis of 14 different sectors that we identified that were key for the Ukrainian recovery, trying to understand or trying to analyze what were the reforms that were going to be critical in order to catalyze private investment. Out of these 14 sectors, there were 3 that actually came super clearly as key sectors. One was housing, because of the relevance that it has and all the destruction that has happened, and the amount of money that actually we could, or investments that we could bring into the housing sector, it was going to be a big part of the total 280 billion that we estimated as potential private investments in the country. But I would like to link it as well with the energy and the clean because I have always difficulties on pronouncing her name, but Metzhill said energy efficiency be absolutely critical. And as you know, in IFC, the green buildings and green construction has been at the top of our agenda for many years in many different regions, in many different countries. And we believe that in Ukraine there exists today a great opportunity to actually in a sector that might be seen or perceived initially that much related to the energy and the clean energy agenda, but that in our view will be absolutely fundamental in the new transformation of the sector. The second one was the energy sector, with 36 billion that we believe could be actually mobilized by doing the necessary reforms, and another 100 billion that could actually come in additional investment. And the third sector was the transport sector, which is also a sector that will really has the capacity to also transform into or shift into a different way of actually thinking this sector and how we could reconstruct it to make it much more clean and sustainable. So out of this, the renewable energy is a key focus of our agenda. I will come back later today in the panel with more specifics on what we are trying to do, but I really believe that the 3 key sectors, the way that we are identifying the reforms and the way that the Ukrainian government and authorities are doing the necessary reforms to incentivize the clean recovery is going to be critical for the next months. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. Olena, an ACP is about, midterm planning, but the war is continuing in Ukraine. Please give us some, statement on how you see that perspective, that junction.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear colleagues and ministers, and I'm really grateful to everybody who helped with the development of this National Energy and Climate Plan within so short period of time. Yes, I would like to make a connection between the present and future, what we actually presented today, this targets for 2030. And I would like to start from the quote. You probably know the author, "If you are going through the hell, keep going." This is Winston Churchill. And Ukraine is going through the hell since the war started, but it is especially hard now. When I was traveling from Kiev, there was no electricity in my apartment for 7 hours in a row. You already know that we lost more than 80% of our thermal power generation, more than 30% of our hydropower generation, and we are constantly lacking around 2 gigawatts or even more in our electricity system. So I would agree with the minister, the winter is coming, but it would probably be correct to say the summer is coming, because now we have to survive both summer and winter. We have a very sad joke in Ukraine that when Russia destroyed our coal-fired generation, it actually accelerated decarbonization in Ukraine. It's a joke, but it's a sad joke because actually it shows that it's a huge blow to our economy. And even if Ukrainians, ordinary Ukrainians like myself, will survive with gas stoves and generators, that might be a question for the economy, for the businesses. And what I really would like to have and would really like to support as a message to everybody, that we should not end up in the situation when the money which should go to the green recovery, renewables development, decarbonization, will go to the state budget to support just salaries and just support social needs. We should both. We should have both money for reconstruction and for support of Ukrainians. So maybe to highlight, Arthur, that in order to implement the targets which we saw today, we really should also have to discuss the defense of our existing infrastructure, and second, discuss how to react on what we have and how we should react into the destructions which we have today. And I believe that the answer to the destructions which we have today should be the increase of speed of recovery. The more Russia targets our infrastructure, the faster we should rebuild it, and in a green way, in a way which actually we have a targets, yes, how to do this. I was thinking about 3 pillars which can help us to increase such a speed. It would be great to discuss it between the government and donors. First one is less bureaucracy, more transparency. What I mean is simplification of all procedures by all stakeholders. We have donors, and I'm sure that donors can simplify their procurement procedures. You did this in the COVID time when you procured vaccines, right, for different countries on behalf of the countries. So use that procedure to procure something for Ukraine on behalf of Ukraine. We can simplify or have waivers on different scope of work with Ukraine. For example, there is a IFIs don't work usually with fossil fuels, but probably for Ukraine there should be a waiver for some period of time to move forward with some short solutions. And of course, on the Ukrainian side, there should be a simplification, a lot of rules and a lot of custom duties, but more transparency and reporting in order to ensure that we are not ending into some corruption issues. The second pillar is more digital, less manual. We have aid energy system, we have electronic system which work well, and they support fast they provide a lot of equipment very fast to different companies. So my proposition would be to discuss what else we can digitalize between Ukrainian side and international side in order to increase the information flow between the demand on Ukrainian side and international partners. And the third pillar I would propose is more flexibility between all of us. So if we have more attacks on energy infrastructure, we will have to remodel the National Energy and Climate Plan, and we all know this. And I believe everything, the same goes to the investment plans, business plans, everything. And we should not be afraid of that. We should just accept that and adjust to that. And I think this goes to everybody, to all Ukrainian, but also to international partners. I will be happy to talk more on NECP as well, maybe later, not to take your time, but just we'll finish with one more issue. If Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no Ukraine, we know this. So we have to make Russia stop attacking. How to make Russia stop attacking is we need to take resources from Russia. And to take resources from Russia, we need to stop trading with Russia in the energy sector as well, but also to do some new energy projects with Russia and with Russian companies. For example, building this new facility to produce nuclear fuel in Lower Saxony, based on Rosatom license. I don't think we need this. Ukraine proved that it can switch from Russian fuel to other types of fuel in nuclear sector. And there is no need to keep this dependency from Russian nuclear fuel for Eastern Europe. I'll stop there, and we'll be happy to add more on NECP later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Olena. Oleksiy, transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, partnership. These were the words which were used by Nasrat and Mekhtil to describe the process of establishing the NACP. Now we are moving to the implementation phase. How you see this process, how it will be organized in Ukraine, so that you have a proper governance system in Ukraine for the implementation of that what is embraced within the NACP document.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for these words. But that was the exact the intention, and it's good that it turned out to that way. So what we definitely need is, since this is a big plan encompassing very different areas, that we need to have really good coordination inside Ukraine government, and the Ministry of Economy coordinating that with the other ministries. We have this Green Transition Office helping us to do that, but we also need to have a good coordination with our international partners. So, and we suggest to keep high-level advisory group in its current form and maybe institutionalize it even more a bit, right, to coordinate better the policies that international partners provide and the help that they provide to Ukraine. The second part is that this is also a public plan, right, and there would be a need for monitoring. And what Olena was saying is that the situation in Ukraine is changing, right? So if we have the situation that we definitely need to change the plan and update it, it should be first of all, no surprise to everyone, and we should all have the same kind of metrics, same baseline, understanding why that's happening. So basically monitoring the plan, reporting the plan, it would be very important to keep everyone up to speed. So like if the need arises, everybody would be on the same page immediately. And yeah, so we will include involvement of our European partners from energy community and the Euro Commission, and as well as independent experts and NGOs who were also helping us to prepare the plan and participated actively in the discussions. And the third part is we need to mobilize the funding. So this is the roadshow that we highlighted during the presentation. We need to have these discussions on how to actually mobilize the required amounts in these areas, in what areas like of priority, right? How we mobilize the ones that are less prioritized, or like what policies should we enact to be able to mobilize that. And I think here the high-level advisory group will play a crucial role, and we would thank for the support that you. The support for kind of the plan, right, the development that we hear at this panel, and I think it would be very, very important going forward, right, to keep this momentum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexei. Mekhtil, NACP is about to set a roadmap for reforms. You've been talking already on electricity reforms, on the gas reforms, which are still to be provided. But I wanted to ask you how European Union, how the European Commission can use its regulatory power by the proper implementation of the NACP, not only to expedite the integration process, but also to enhance the resilience of Ukrainian energy system, in the run-up to the winter we are expecting to come very soon.
Yeah. I think we have here to differentiate between this winter, and we had already some discussion how we can help overcome what you also very well and sadly described with load shedding and everything what is happening right now. And there we will really put all the G7 plus countries together, the EU members, to look at how we can support with in-kind, with donations, with more electricity trading with the neighboring countries, and everything which is needed. In the medium and long term, I think as now Ukraine is a candidate countries, and it has been with the energy community for more than 15, 16 years. I think Ukraine is rather well prepared in the sense that the regulatory framework with the first electricity market reforms, with the first reforms on the gas market, with first steps on the energy efficiency side, with a renewables target, with decarbonization of gases, and I agree there's a lot of potential also on biogases, on nuclear. I think there is already a framework which Ukraine and us, we can use together, and then this, because the enlargement and most likely as the president of von der Leyen of the European Commission already announced, by end of June there will be a new step in the accession talks. We can also speed up and really look at former steps to complete and to discuss what is still needed for the framework. But I think the NECP with implementation, and I was happy to hear that the High-Level Advisory Council will continue, because I think the monitoring is absolutely crucial, so that we are on the same line and that what I mentioned in the beginning, the predictability in a country which is a war situation, that the predictability where the country is going in line with governance, in line with EU priorities, is really important. And that's why I think the further integration of the markets is absolutely key, and the further development and implementing NECP and the regulatory framework. And that hopefully we have IFC and other IFIAs here will also trigger the necessary support from donors.
Jeff, you have already underlined a US commitment to bolstering Ukraine's economic stability and resilience. But you are also very successful, you have been very successfully coordinating G7 plus partners in provisioning Ukraine with the necessary equipment now. But how you see the role of the document as NECP for mid-term rebuilding activities and efforts to be undertaken by the G7 plus group?
No, well, thank you, Arthur. And just to underline, the United States, working with 3 different G7 presidents now, Germany, Japan, Italy, has built a coalition of 27 countries and multilateral institutions with a singular focus on how we help to build resilience in the Ukrainian energy system. But from the beginning, that has had 2 areas of focus, both short-term, what do we do to keep the lights on so that Elena has more than 7 hours of power in her apartment in Kyiv, but also how do we lay the foundation for a future energy system that is fully aligned with Ukraine's clean energy aspirations. From that perspective, the NECP document is extremely important as a roadmap, just as the EU accession process is. It provides the roadmap of the steps that Ukraine needs to take and that we need to take as the international donor community. In that regard, I was especially glad to hear Minister Ghani's strong focus on private sector interest. I would say the same is true for the United States, and you see it in all the MOUs, for instance, that have been signed with both Ukrainian private and public sector companies over the past 2 days, with General Electric, with Honeywell, and the prospect of doing more. But it's also critically important, as Elena alluded to, that we keep a very strong focus on the issues of reform. In that regard, especially in the energy sector, the issues around corporate governance are so important, and I'm encouraged that in every one of my meetings with the state energy enterprise today, the CEO mentioned corporate governance reform as one of their pride points, one of their performance criteria. And I think I say this as somebody who lived and worked in Ukraine for a transformative 3 years in the country's history, but also as somebody who in that period and dealing with President Yanukovych saw the deeply pernicious impact that energy had on the Ukrainian political culture, on the influence, the pernicious influence that Russia exercised, and the issues of corruption. Ukraine has transformed itself dramatically over the past 10 years. But just as in the United States, these are ongoing projects. And what I would just underline to the minister is our commitment to being good partners in that regard, but also the imperative that we work together, because ultimately the sector that all of us are involved in is the easiest one in the world to burn through $1 billion very quickly. It's only private sectors that can mobilize the capital necessary to drive Ukraine's energy transformation. And that private sector is going to base its decisions on the quality of governance, the quality of transparency, the rule of law, competition policy. But the good news, as Mechthild alluded to, is all of these things are part of the larger EU package that Ukraine has enthusiastically subscribed to. So I'm committed to continuing our work in the G7+. We have to win the war, but as we all say in Washington, we also have to help Ukraine to win the future.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Jeff already elaborated on the need of having a transparent framework and governance structure for implementing the system, and you and the UK government has already supported the Ukrainian government in establishing such a system for last year, which led us to today's meeting. I wanted to ask you, Nasrat, what are your expectations and plan and priorities for a year ahead of us?
Well, we've moved enormously since last year. We now have the NECP in place, and as I said earlier, we are now launching the Green Transition Office. We'll be providing the expertise that's needed to ensure that the plan becomes a product that can be delivered. And obviously, having an office means that we'll be dealing with issues around accountability, transparency, but also fundamentally ensuring that there is absolute focus in delivering this plan practically as well, and making sure that the department and the government has the expertise that it needs. So that has been our focus to date, and that will be our focus as we continue to move on. There is so much to distract the wonderful ministers on the stage and the government of Ukraine, but the fact that they've been so front-footed in looking at their decarbonisation plan, we need to make sure that we can absolutely deliver this as well. So we'll be focusing on delivering the plan with them, working with all of our international partners and with many firms as we can. We want to make sure that we can share our experiences in the UK. We've always been quite forward-leaning in achieving net zero, whether it's via air, water, hydrogen. Also, we have a remarkable battery strategy in the UK as well, and we've been able to decarbonise or have strategies to decarbonise most of our industrial sectors, and no doubt the Ukrainians will have the same ambitions too. So lots of hands-on practical expertise, but also providing confidence and assurance to other investors and the private sector that this plan most definitely is one that can be put into action. But if I may, because I have the floor, I just want to reflect back on what Elena said earlier on. Elena talked about sanctions, I think, very briefly, and one of the outcomes of this brutal conflict that all of us have had to address issues of security and dependency maybe we hadn't thought about. Food security being one, Ukraine being the breadbasket of Europe. The second is energy security, and the fact that those countries that were closer aligned to securing their energy from Russia, one could argue, weren't as front-footed in providing the support that that Ukraine needed. So there's a lot of conversations taking place about energy security, and this is one that we have to take most seriously. We do not ever want to be in a situation where we are coerced by an aggressor because it is able to switch on or off the energy that we need to enable our economies to going forward. So sanctions are pretty binary. You either get caught up with them or you don't. And people should be, and countries should be abiding by those. And circumvention of sanctions have to be, we just throw light on this. There's no way of getting away from it. If products, entities are sanctioned, they should not be circumventing and ended up providing a bolster to the Russian economy. And I used to be the shipping minister, so I'll talk about some of the products that are shipped around the world, oil in particular. And we're very keen on, no doubt the Foreign Secretary, when he spoke earlier on today, the British Foreign Secretary spoke about the shadow fleet, making sure that we are impounding ships when they enter into ports and ensuring that those products don't enter second or third markets. So we have to be absolutely spot on in ensuring that we are not continuing, consciously or unconsciously supporting the Russian economy, which all that is doing is funding its attacks on Ukraine. But look, it is remarkable considering all the pressure that the Ukrainians are under, that they've put together a fantastic decarbonisation plan. We're really pleased to set up an office, and we will make sure that delivery is done to the timetable that they're proposing to get it done by. Thank you.
The objective of the NCP is to provide predictability for investors, for the private capital to come to Ukraine. by setting up the list of the reforms, of the processes and the projects to be developed. And I wanted to ask you, Alfonso, how you see, I mean, this kind of assurances and NECP as a provider of this predictability, how you see the importance of this document for the investors to take the decision to invest in Ukraine.
Thank you, Artur. I think, as I mentioned before, that this is a great program, the NCP. I think that it really goes into the key reforms and the key issues that we need to think about and that we need to reform. To give a data point of what I mentioned before, according to the estimations that we did, what we can actually increase, or the volume of private investment that could actually increase thanks to these reforms, is 16 times. So from 2.2 billion that we estimated that could actually attract the current situation of the energy sector in Ukraine, this number can go up to 36 billion with the necessary reforms. And the good news is that the government has already made a super important progress with the remit law, with the green transformation law, with the guarantees of origin, and now is coming the national energy and climate plan that will be an integrated solution that we believe that will be a strong signal to international investors that the reforms that are key will be coming. I also think that we need to keep on working on three aspects that are going to be critical. One is the free price formation, both at wholesale and retail market levels. That is going to be fundamental in order to attract private investment. The second one is increasing the share of renewable energy, shifting to market instruments of renewable support and addressing some of the investors' concerns that could still exist. And third is advancing on the electricity market reform, as I mentioned before, that I think that by adopting the European Union Clean Energy Package will give us the path to go. No? To give you very briefly a sense of what we are doing from IFC as of now, as we speak, one is three areas or three dimensions. One is investing in renewable energy, focusing on wind. We are currently working with two companies to support the development of 350 megabytes of new wind capacity, and we believe that this is going to be relevant, together with including collocated battery storage with one of them. The second piece, or the second pillar, is developing energy storage solutions. This is going to be a fundamental part of the new reform in our view, because pre-invasion we estimated that actually Ukraine needed between 1.5 to 2 gigabytes of battery storage by 2030, and of course this has worsened big time with the invasion. No? So we are working with a leading global power developer to actually address and to invest in this aspect. And the third one is boosting captive power generation, which we believe is going to be also a key aspect of the in the future. No? Actually, with risk mitigation support from UK FCDO, we supported an agricultural company in upgrading the biogas plant to produce biomethane using agricultural waste. No? Solutions like these ones, we believe, are also going to be super important in the coming future. So all this, and also in addition to all this, the Renew program that the World Bank Group put together in order to define and trying to design a credible and bankable auction scheme to bring new capital to the market, we believe that is going to help us to move in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oleg, and I would like to turn to you with the last question in this series. From your perspective of the civil society organization, maybe Oleksiy already mentioned the monitoring system to come, but can you promise us that you will be a watchdog of a proper implementation of the NECP, so that the consistency of the reforms and the project with the NECP will be ensured?
Thank you. You know what is the beauty in NSCP and why I really like this document? First, this is a one voice from our government, and I think this is the first time when we have integrated energy and climate policy, and moreover, this is integrated targets. So I hope there will be no situation in the future where we will have a fight between the Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Environment, which was a case for decades in Ukraine. And we had actually Deputy Minister can prove that we had one of the high-level advisory groups when three deputy ministers delivered the presentation: Deputy Minister of Economy, Deputy Minister of Energy, and Deputy Minister of Environment. And they all were talking about the same targets, the same ideas, and the same policies and measures. And I think this is a great signal that National Energy and Climate Plan can be successful in terms of implementation. Yes, of course, the second beauty is that there is a capacity already established. There is a good team which drafted National Energy and Climate Plan, and thanks to US, UK government and EU, this team will have a chance to continue monitoring this. There is also a good instruments how to monitor, right? EU regulation, but we promise it will be very independent, we will be very much strict and very much attentive, right, to everything what's going on. I also would like to mention that National Energy and Climate Plan is very clear in terms of how to move forward, because you have a very particular sectors: energy efficiency, renewables, transport, decarbonization of heat, infrastructure, smart grids. You have to prioritize this sector, you have to build some intensive there, you have to ensure that there is a stable regulation there. And I would also, of course, add the insurances, war insurances, because this is something which we are constantly hearing from the businesses. And if all this is in place, I think there will be both assistance and investments into these sectors. And if government really shows that these are priorities, we will see businesses there. So answering your question, Arthur, promise. But I'm really sure that National Energy and Climate Plan has a chance to be a successful document in terms of implementation. Thank you.
Okay, well, on a very positive note, I wanted to ask you whether you might have any question to our panelists. There is one question, please. There's the second one, the third one, and the list is closed, please. So please introduce
Oksana
yourself.
Kisil, Covenant of Mayors Project Ukraine, and my question will be addressed maybe to Mr. Sobolev and to EU partners as well. A Covenant of Mayors initiative, it's about mitigation and adaptation on local level. How do you plan to integrate local leaders to National Energy and Climate Plan?
Alexei, will you take up? Okay, so there's a gentleman in the middle volunteering to ask another question.
Thank you very much. I work for the European Commission's Climate Department, and I wanted to join Mrs. Vostoffer on, congratulating Ukraine on the truly amazing effort that has been put in this NECP. It is a real step forward in the right direction, also from the realization of the integration between energy and climate policies. So I think this is really an amazing achievement. I just wanted to make an additional remark regarding the green transition. This is precisely the title of this session. For obvious reasons, we've talked a lot about energy, decarbonization, energy, considering the structural, historic emission profile of Ukraine, the immediate needs, unfortunately, that Ukraine is facing. However, aligning with the European Green Deal also goes further than that. Some other emission sources have been mentioned briefly in this panel, such as transport, such as housing. There's an awful lot to do in this. It goes also across agriculture, for instance. It goes across waste treatment in particular, improving the circularity of the economy, and also talking about green transition, improving the resilience to climate change of the whole economy of Ukraine, particularly because we're talking about an agricultural powerhouse.
Thank you very much. The comment, well noted, congratulations, accepted. The third question, please.
Thank you. Brian Milikovsky, LSE Ideas. I think this question is primarily to the Deputy Director General. You mentioned decarbonization of key sectors in Ukraine as a part of this question that we're looking at. I was wondering, is there a discussion right now in the dialogue between European institutions and Kyiv about resources for decarbonizing industry like steel, cement, chemicals, which so much in Europe has been led by state aid together with private investment, and a large source of state aid in Ukraine right now is difficult to find. So is there a discussion about bringing resources for decarbonizing steel, for instance, as part of this strategy? Thank you.
So if you would allow me, I would invite Mechtil for taking up the later question. 20 seconds, Mechtil, okay? And then on the first question, you, Oleksiy.
Thank you very much. Yes, there is the Ukraine facility and the Ukraine plan. The Ukraine facility is this 50 billion euro, which has been agreed at the EU level, and first commitments are made. It's for 4 years. There are different pillars and different programs, but decarbonization of the energy-intensive industries are included. We can come back in more detail if needed.
Thank you. Yes. Really fast as well. So, preparing an ECP, we had extensive regional consultations. There were more than 800 participants participating in it, like several rounds, written comments, and then like discussions around it. So we know that the thoughts and the comments from the regions are incorporated. There are also the sectors that require housing is local. So there's no way around around actually working together with local communities to be able to implement this in ECP. So some of the policies that are done by the government are on a central level, but a lot of those that are described in ECP are also for the local level. That's how there's going to be like a lot of coordination that we'll be doing together with the Ministry of like regions or recovery on coordinating that for the local level. So.
Thank you very much, Oleksiy. So in that is the end of our panel. Let me to conclude it by saying that the Ukraine Energy and Climate Plan will be adopted soon. Ukraine is ready for starting implementation. The war-related risk will remain with us, so we have to deal with them accordingly. However, the international community is mobilized and committed to continue cooperation on the midterm development of and decarbonization of the Ukrainian economy. Thank you very much for the panel members and to the audience for your kind participation. And I would like to invite you all to the closing ceremony, which is starting right now. Thank you very much.